Greetings all, FerrariMan601 here. It has come to my attention that friend of the channel, BoneYard, recently put up a couple of videos, actually, addressing an interesting question in the world of sim racing, and that concerns the integrity of ASR Formula's mods for Assetto Corsa, particularly their early to mid-90s Formula 1 mods. And the integrity of their mods in terms of the source and things like that is not in question. However, the integrity of them in terms of their performance is very much called into question. BoneYard on his channel, and there's a link to his channel in my description here, he quite viscerally demonstrates the disparity in pace between, in particular, ASR's 1994 Williams FW16 mod, version 1.01 of that mod is featured in this video, versus RaceSim Studios' 2017 Formula Hybrid mod. He's running these cars side by side on track in identical conditions, and quite obviously, the FW16 is out-cornering a car that is 25 years newer than it, and in theory, the newer car obviously will have a whole lot more aerodynamic downforce, better tires, more horsepower because it's got a hybrid system running through the engine, and, well, generally speaking, something that's newer should be all around better than something that is 25 years its senior and built to a vastly different set of regulations. However, that is not the case in BoneYard's video. So, I thought, is it possible that we might be able to demonstrate this in a little bit more of a scientific point of view? In other words, can we apply some controlled conditions and some data and math to this problem and see if we can demonstrate wherein this pace disparity lies with regard to ASR Formula's Formula 1 mods, in particular the FW16 Williams? In order to test this, our methodology is thus. At Silverstone Circuit, which is a stock circuit available in Assetto Corsa, we will do 2 runs, 1 run in each car. Obviously, we will be featuring the ASR Williams FW16, and for context, we will also feature the RaceSim Studio Formula Hybrid 2020. These cars are 26 years apart in theory, and therefore they should have widely disparate performance relative to each other. These runs will consist of an outlap and 2 flying laps. At the end of our second flying lap, we will be stopping on track and switching the engine off. The cars will run identical fuel loads. This is 40 liters of fuel, as the default fuel level in the ASR FW16 is 40 liters. This actually comes out to be a rather large handicap for the Formula Hybrid. However, default setup on both cars, aside from fuel load for Formula Hybrid and aside from gearing in the FW16, in runs before this, I found that the FW16 was hitting the rev limiter at about 311 or so that was halfway down hanger straight and bouncing off the rev limiter. So I've lengthened the gearing in the FW16 just so that we don't stop accelerating prematurely, and now all of that is fine. However, default setup on both cars, the softest available tires on both cars, that is the Q or qualifying compound for the FW16, and the soft for the Formula Hybrid. Silverstone Circuit, according to Content Manager, has a length of 5.9 kilometers. This figure has been rounded. The actual circuit length is 5.891 kilometers, which is going to be our conversion factor in order to calculate the average speed of each lap. We're going to be doing that with our formula velocity equals distance over time. You'll remember this formula from your high school physics classes. From there, we will calculate the average speed for each car on their fastest laps. This does not calculate instantaneous speed at any one moment for either car on either lap. However, that data will be plainly evident via the HUD that'll be on the left side of the screen for both runs. We'll be comparing these cars side by side in video from on board, so you'll be able to see when these cars are doing a given speed through any given corner. You can pause the video, and the resolution is such that you'll be able to read that speed data at any point for either lap. We'll be synchronizing the video so that both cars cross start finish to begin their fastest laps at the same time relative to each other, so it is a one-to-one comparison of apex speeds and overall in terms of progress around the lap. Without further ado, to the side-by-side comparison. So quite obviously, we can see that the Formula Hybrid 2020 is faster than the ASR FW16, and this is a result that we absolutely would expect to see. However, the difference in lap time between both of these cars on their fastest laps was only 0.871 seconds. That is 871 thousandths of a second over 26 years, basically. One would not expect to see a result that close between cars so very different in their design and so very much separated by time, especially when one considers that the tires on a modern car are much better than one that is from 1994. The modern car has about 200 more horsepower, give or take, and a whole lot more aerodynamic downforce. In identical circuit conditions, identical weather conditions, identical circuit length, quite obviously, that is far too narrow a gap in order to be believable, in my opinion. In terms of the technicalities, that lap time from Formula Hybrid 2020, 127.551, through our formula of V equals D over T, that comes out to an average speed of 242.231 kilometers per hour. Comparing that to the FW16's lap time of 128.422, around the same circuit, again through our formula of V equals D over T, that computes to an average speed of 239.845 kilometers per hour. This difference in average speed is negligible, as you can see, because it only equates to 0.871 seconds of lap time difference over that 5.891 kilometer lap. In order to parse this data further and to put it into some real-world context, the pole position time for the 2019 British Grand Prix was a 125.093, and that was set by Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. Over the same circuit length of 5.891 kilometers, that comes out to an average speed of 249.228 kilometers per hour. So our average speed here in Formula Hybrid, carrying a lot more fuel and in cooler conditions, 242.231 kilometers per hour, that seems to be representatively on the pace on the part of Formula Hybrid. Now comparing our run in the ASR FW16 to the 1994 British Grand Prix. Well, clearly you're going to say, well, the circuit was different in 94, so clearly you can't possibly do a comparison. Well, I've thought about that, and obviously, yes, the Silverstone circuit was rather different in 1994. The 94 edition of the race ran the perimeter circuit, which does still exist. However, the circuit version that we're running here, the infield arena circuit, did not exist at that time. It was built in 2009, and it was first used for the British Grand Prix in 2010. However, the question of average speed is still a one-to-one comparison because, yes, even though we are talking about different circuit lengths and overall different circuit configurations, we're looking at average speed. That is not going to be affected very much by the actual circuit configuration, provided that you look at the conversion factors properly. In 1994, the British Grand Prix was held on that perimeter circuit, which had a total length of 5.057 kilometers. Pole position for that race, consequently, was set by Damon Hill in the FW16, and he did it in 1 minute 24.960 seconds. When you run that through V equals D over T, you get an average speed of 214.279 kilometers per hour. Our average speed on our lap in the ASR Williams, 239.845 kilometers per hour. That's 25.5 kilometers per hour faster than the real-world pole position average speed in the FW16. In closing, the only other remarks I would like to add, first of all, on a political one, the comments on BoneYard's videos have been quite incendiary and quite vitriolic, and in my opinion, he's getting all of this vitriol in a manner most unjustified. All he has done here is show in objective fashion that the ASR FW16 is way too fast, in his opinion, and now backed up by my own data, in my opinion. Secondly, other commenters, equally vitriolic in nature, said, well, you're using a gamepad. Use a wheel and try it again. Your data doesn't make sense. Well, I'm using a wheel, I'm using a Thrustmaster TS PC, therefore my data should make sense. And, well, driving both cars with the same equipment really wouldn't matter anyway, whether you're using a wheel or a gamepad in the case of BoneYard. However, there it is. There's all the data in front of you, and my conclusion is the same as BoneYard's, that ASR's FW16 at very least is far too fast. It's 25.5 kilometers per hour on average per lap, faster than the real-world analog, and the fact that it's only 0.871 seconds slower around a lap of Silverstone than a 2020 car, which we've also demonstrated here, is representatively on the pace of a real-world analog around the same circuit. I would say that, yes, the ASR car is far too fast. The performance is amazingly inflated. Anecdotally, the ASR car is flat in 6th through Copse Corner on default setup. Obviously, the Formula Hybrid also is, but the real-world cars are able to do that in qualifying. In 1994, no way was that possible. But I leave you with that. There it is. I hope that this was as objective as possible, and any criticisms that you would like to lay in my general direction, please feel free. The data is here and presented to you objectively for you to analyze. However, I will say that if you do default to ad hominem attacks and slander, you will be blocked and reported immediately. Until next time, I do thank you all very much for watching. FerrariMan601 saying thanks, and of course, we will see you soon.